Hello everyone, so I just finished watching the full season 1 of Invincible on Amazon Prime. This is 8 episodes long and each episode comes in at around the 45-minute mark, and if you want to see my review for the first 3 episodes, which they released a few weeks ago, I will link that actually up at the top here so you can go and check that out if you want to just kind of get a basis of what the first 3 episodes are like if you haven't watched any of the series so far. Without further ado, I'm going to bring my full season 1 review for Amazon's Invincible series. So without further ado, here we go. So as I was saying, like at the end of my episodes 1 to 3 review, this is just an absolute stacked voice cast of amazing voice actors who bring their all to the characters, especially J.K. Simmons, Sandra Oh, Stephen Young, Seth Rogen as well, Walter Goggins. Like, there's so many people in the show who just do an amazing job with the voice acting, and it's one of the best in terms of like a animated or just cartoon series that I've ever seen. And just this whole season is so effective into creating a storyline that you're so interested to see, so interested to learn about, especially in terms of learning about Omni-Man and what his presence on Earth means. Not just for him, not just for Mark, and just the entire world. There's a lot of really cool and amazingly written characters in this season. There's a lot of people, like side characters, who come into this show where you don't think you're going to learn too much about them, but they end up being absolutely like standout characters, which I'm not going to get into too much in terms of spoilers, but I loved Adam Eve's character. I loved Titan. Cecil became one of my favorite characters. I also love learning about Damien Darkblood, and just all of them are really fantastically written. There's a few characters, and especially I thought episode 6 of the season was a very weak episode, especially after following up the huge kind of events with Mark and his Battle Beast. But for the most part, like 95% of the characters, if not more than that, just really stuck with me, and it was so interesting and amazing to learn about all of them. The animation too was just stellar throughout this entire season, and there's a lot of spectacle that comes around it as well, where the fights are just so well drawn, shot, choreographed, and put into place, all bolstered by some amazing music choices, which I absolutely love. They did a fantastic job with all the song choices that they chose and the original score that they were able to do too. Where like it made everything so epic when it was put on screen, and some of the best superhero villain brawls that I have seen, including like DC, Marvel, and just most comic books that I've read. There's some amazing brawls, amazing fights that are put into this movie with really high stakes. And especially too, like there's some amazing scenes with Omni-Man, and there's just some of the most diabolical, disgusting, evil acts that I've ever seen put into anything put into this series, in terms of just characters revealing their true selves multiple times throughout the series, especially too in the last episode. Like I said, there's just one scene, I'm not trying not to go into spoiler territory here, but when you're on the last episode, so episode 8, and you see a train, just one of the most disgustingly evil things I've ever seen, but it was so effective. And it, like throughout the entire day, I was just thinking about how just terrible it was, and just how evil it was, and just again how effective the show is in terms of its violence, its gore, the characters trying to scar one another to let them know like this is my territory, my planet, my city, whatever it happens to be, like my crime enterprise. Just all the characters have moments that stick with you so greatly in terms of their visuals, their meaning, the impact it's going to have on the world and the future of like the story of Invincible. There's a lot that goes on and happens, and it's all just really well drawn out, thought out, and paced out. Like I said, I found that sometimes in this series that the pacing was a little off in certain areas, or there's some storylines that were brought out maybe just a little too early for the series. Like there's one scene with an Egyptian king where I feel like that didn't necessarily need to happen right then and there, because it isn't explored throughout the rest of the series. Same thing, episode 6 I found wasn't very effective in the way, in terms of timing and pacing of the show, and just kind of the larger impact that's going to have on the series. I found like the villains that were created in episode 6 are going to have a big impact in the future because of what we see from it in episode 8. Trying not to go into spoiler territory too much here, but I just found like certain things felt off in terms of the storytelling, or maybe like this just needed a couple more episodes to really flush out the story for the season, instead of kind of just being a little teaser of what's to come in season 2 and 3, because this did get renewed for 2 more seasons on Amazon Prime, and I'm certain we're going to see more because of how successful the show has been and just how good it is too. But I felt sometimes, like I said, just the storytelling was just being too much of a teaser for what's to come, when it wasn't really effective to what the episode was supposed to be about, or where the show was going to go for the next few episodes. It's just kind of, oh, here we go, we're getting a good setup of what the villain is going to be this week, or like who's going to come into play later on, but then they're just completely dropped and we don't see them for the rest of the season. Little things like that's where I wish just could have been spaced out, or in, I should say, a little better. I remember hearing too, and I can definitely see it, and there's one character, Adam Eve, who doesn't quite fit this role yet so far, but I did find like a lot of the female characters in this show and in the comic book universe are just kind of there to be more romantic interests for the men in the series and to be characters on their own, and sometimes it can be just a little disappointing not being able to see these really awesome characters with cool powers not be able to shine in their own light sometimes, where like they might get a cool fight scene, but then when it comes time to really learn about them, it's just advancing the romantic interest of a lot of the men in this show, and I feel like they could be done a lot better if they were given a lot more time like Adam Eve was to grow, and just more time kind of spent on them, where I know this is a show about Invincible, but a lot of the time, and this isn't just with a lot of the female characters, some of them aren't, in terms of the men, aren't thought out too well, or they just fall really flat. Again, they just kind of, a lot of the smaller side characters are just meant to be romantic interests, and I just really wish that we would have been able to see a lot more. They're given a lot more to do, like characters such as Adam Eve or Deborah, which is Invincible's mom and Omni-Man's wife in this show, and it just, those two were fantastic arcs in terms of bigger side characters, and I just wish they were in the upcoming seasons they're able to give a lot more of that life and just really progression in those characters to a lot more of the side characters. Just have them be more interesting and have them be, like I said, just more characters instead of just interests for some of the other bigger characters. But in terms of the main storyline just being about Omni-Man's presence on this world and what it means for Mark and what it means for the rest of humanity, is very well paced out, very well shown, and just very well executed, especially at the end of just what it really means for humanity, and especially Mark, and how it's gonna scar him for the rest of his life and scare him away from so many responsibilities in his life, but also to shape him into the hero that he needs to be, not only for his mother, not only for his friends, not only for the world, not only for the universe, is what this is really shaping out to be, because they did some fantastic world building in this series that truly shows how far out it stretches. It's not just Earth where we get to see these heroes and have stories come from. There is an entire solar system of different planets, different races, different powers, different organisms, things that are just really going to come and shape season 2 and just collide in the world and just set up major events that is going to bring in so many characters and so many new characters, because there is a ton of characters to remember. I mean, it's a comic book series, but it almost feels like it's not just about Invincible. It is like we're watching a Marvel Cinematic Universe almost, because of just how many characters and potential this series has to grow into, like I said, just an entire solar system of stories. And before I get into my score here, one thing that I really hope that is not included in future seasons is, I just thought it was the cheesiest thing in the world, and it started to really annoy me, is how every single episode has to have the Invincible title card. So basically what this is in certain points at the beginning of this episode, they'll be like, you'll see Mark go off into a fight and people down watching below and just like, oh, how is he gonna fight this thing? He's gonna have to be, and then basically the Invincible title card comes in. And I found a lot of the times it just didn't make sense in terms of how these people talked. It was almost like narration more than anything. And it just really took me out of a lot of moments in the show where I was not excited at all to see the title screen. I was kind of dreading it most weeks it was coming on by the end of this series. So I hope that is not included in the rest of it, because like I said, it just started to really annoy me in certain ways. But that hardly takes away about how fantastic this show is. And with everything taken together, I have to give the first season of Invincible on Amazon Prime an 8.5 out of 10, because it is a fantastically executed world and series of characters filled with some of the most disturbing gore and violence that I've ever seen, but it's so effective. It's not glorified at all. There's no humor taken into it. It's all effective in building the trauma and just the stakes of what it means to have powers and see cities and people just absolutely leveled, and what that means for how you have to go about your day-to-day job of being a superhero while dealing with just the consequences of, if I save this person and move too fast, I might kill them. Like little things like that just a lot of people don't think about when they watch superheroes. These aren't all experienced people, and they're not all meant to be heroes, nor are they meant to be villains. It's just sometimes the powers can be a curse, and they put that into the show very effectively and very, very well thought out. So if you've seen the first season of Invincible on Amazon Prime, please let me know what you thought about it in the comments down below, and you can check out all my other TV reviews, movie reviews, everything I do on this channel through my playlist down below, and I'll link some up top here. If you like what you see on the channel, of course, subscribe and turn the little ringer on if you want to know when I upload new videos. If you want to check out everything that I do video game wise, there's a link in the description to my Twitch. And there's also a link in there to my Discord, which is the Media Mountain, where we talk about movies, comics, video games, TV, basically everything that is awesome in this world. So you can definitely join that Discord and just join an amazing community of people who love everything awesome in this world. But yes, please go check out Invincible on Amazon Prime. There's 8 episodes, like I said, each one about 45 minutes long, and just awesome, guys.